Hello everybody, Darren here, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Now today is the culmination of many hours of investment, where we're going to automate not 1, 2, 3, or even 4, but 5 space elevator parts. Versatile frameworks, smart plating, automated wiring, modular engines, and adaptive control units. This is going to require over 50 new manufacturers and a whole lot of logistics to move around already existing products to where they need to be. Factories are going to expand, they're going to be redesigned, and they're going to be linked together to make it all happen. Now, as always, the blueprints and the plans for the builds in today's video will be available on whatdarrenplays.com/satisfactory. Links in the description. It's all for free, no memberships required or anything like that. It's just if you want a little bit of extra info. If you like that, please do leave a like, and maybe drop a comment for what you want to see most as we get closer to 1.0. Without further delay, let's begin. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, back where it all began, the Big Rock Arch. In episode 1, this is the first kind of landmark I looked at to kind of orientate ourselves and see where we need to go and start our first production lines, gather our biomass, and so on and so forth. Now we're going to build a space elevator next to it, right where the old parts factory used to be. So the parts factory has been torn down. It was a temporary factory. It's the only one I've done, which I'm trying to stay away from temporary factories. You could probably say that the steel one, it's really low power, so it doesn't really need to be there, but whatever. Generally speaking, the parts factory is actually the only one that was designed knowingly as a temporary place, and that was because it was just making some construction material in the background so that we could go build a big turbo fuel factory, supply ourselves with power. Needed a lot of computers and heavy modular frames, so the parts factory was basically a big runway of trucks delivering all sorts of materials in so that we can make, in a very low quantity, an unbalanced amount of construction material. That doesn't really need to exist anymore because now we have a computer factory, we have heavy modular frames, got pretty much everything that place made except for crystal oscillators, so we'll get to that in future. So, the next thing now, and the reason we're putting in the space elevator here, is so that we can actually advance to the next stage. So let's have a quick look at what's required as of right now. So we need 2500 versatile framework. That's going to come from modular frames and steel beams. I'm not going to use the rubber in the alternate recipe. The next one over is modular engines. So we've just built a motor factory. We have the rubber coming from the rubber and coke factory. And then we have smart plating. That's something that we're actually going to have to amend, which we'll do today in the iron factory. And then finally, it's 100 adaptive control units. This requires automated wiring, which was a prerequisite to the previous space elevator phase. You don't actually need it on its own for this one, but it's part of the adaptive control unit, so we're going to have to set that up. That requires stators again, so we'll head back over to the copper caterium factory for that. But then it's circuit boards, computers, and heavy modular frames, something that we've all set up now. So that's basically everything we need. We're in pretty good position. I'm hoping, just in today's episode alone, we can get all of this done. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we have our to-do list. Motors, checked it off. It's already done. Versatile frameworks. So let's just start with that right now. I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way and not automated. So basically, we have a steel factory right over there that has containers, truck stations completely full of steel beams, and we have a modular frame factory off in the distance as well that has the same thing. So those are the two components we need. Right, this should make it a little bit easier to build. So let's grab our first truck station, and we'll just pop one out somewhere here on the left, somewhere here on the right. It doesn't matter too much, obviously, because we're not really fine-tuning the placement of the numbers. It's all kind of temporary anyway. So we're going to be making versatile frameworks, and we need 2500, right? So if we have a quick look, we know that they're doing 5 per minute. We're not trying to load balance anything here. I'm just shoving inventories into them and hoping that they can produce as many as possible while we're off building other things, because it's the highest volume we need, so it's going to take the longest, generally speaking. So let's go with, I would say, maybe 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's try that. So 6 versatile frameworks. So what would that be? That'd be, they produce 5 per minute. So 6 times 5 is 30. So 2500 is what we need, divided by the 30. It means it would take about 83 minutes. Alright, cool. So there we go. Easy as that. Let's just hook these all in. We only need Mark 1 belts anyway, so this is totally fine. Alright, and then we just do the other inputs coming from the other direction. This one. Alright, change it to a Mark 3 belt. Unfortunately, wasn't quite nicely lined up, but I think it'll be fine. I think I'll get over it.
So this is such low volume, we could just mix it all up into one big merger and then send it into one of the input ports here. Alright, there we go. Everything's merged. We've sent it straight in. All looking good so far. I've just started to hook up power, so we'll just grab maybe this power pole here, bring it along, and just make sure it's connected into the truck station. And same on the other side, I guess. I'll just hook in power over there to the nearest connecting power pole. That should give us all power. I have to assign the actual recipes on these. It's so funny because I've been building with blueprints so much now that I barely ever have to do this, like look into a machine and see the recipe list. It was really weird actually looking at it there for a moment because it's like, oh wow, there's so many. But yeah, just haven't had to see that for a while. Alright, we're almost ready to go. So I'm actually going to feed these guys manually. I'm not going to make the truck routes automatic because I'd have to then feed in some sort of fuel refueling for them. Just can't be bothered. Don't need to. Just, you know, 1 or 2 big batches of modular frames and steel. It's going to be enough to keep these guys rolling for quite a while. And I've activated the game phase up in the top right of the screen, so now I can just see... Well, actually, it's funny. You can't see it when you're in the vehicle, but I can see generally if that number stops going up. It's like, oh, I got to top up one of the machines. Shouldn't probably ever have to do that, maybe once, but other than that, it should be fine then. Alright, my job is done. I'll just park back up here, I guess, and then I can just quickly check. Alright, and there we have it. The first batches of versatile frameworks are rolling out now. So we're at 54 out of 2,500. So by my count, it should take about an hour and 20 minutes to fill this thing up completely. It might require us taking a second payload and delivering it in. We've got 7,200 steel beams in there, and there's 2,200 modular frames in there. So we're putting all these resources to good use, and it's quite nice because they weren't completely full up just yet, so none of it's gone to waste really either, just going into the awesome sinks. Alright, so that is Versatile Frameworks basically done. Next up, smart plating. Alright, so we're going to start making some smart plating, and the Iron Factory is a perfect place to do this because at bay number 3, if I'm not mistaken, we make 231 iron ingots per minute. These are sort of unassigned ingots. As you can see, there's no truck assigned to doing anything with it. There's no route name assigned or anything like that. It's just 231 ingots that sit here not doing anything. There's a bit of excess that I wasn't too sure what to do with in a kind of clean way. All the other numbers were kind of balanced nicely, so we just had some left over. And the idea was that maybe we could send it somewhere in the future, do something else with it. But I'm actually going to refactor this, and we're just going to use it right here in this factory to do sort of what we already do, which is make more reinforced iron plates. Because to make smart plating, we need reinforced iron plates mixed with rotors. Now, that would have been perfect had it not been for the fact that we consume all 40 reinforced iron plates per minute that we make here. So there's a route on the very top. You can see it says IRN-SIL. So that's Iron to Silica Factory, the reinforced iron plate route. Bay number 2, 40 per minute, 1 truck assigned. It takes about 3 minutes. So it's nice having that information here because I haven't been here in a while. So seeing that was just an instant indication that nope, this isn't available. You don't have this to use. So we'll have to make more. Luckily, we had an excess of iron ingots. So this should be pretty straightforward. It's a little space constrained, but I think I know where I'm going to do it. So if we could just hop out here and go upstairs, we can basically take a look at the assembly room. Right, so if people want a brief, quick overview of this place, I'll just have to wait for that autosave actually, and then I'll resume. Alright, so let's talk through how this place works. So it's color-coded, and it's super simple to follow, and I think it looks great. It's probably my favorite factory in terms of its aesthetic. It's very industrial looking, so if I could do more like this, I think that'd be a good thing. Brutalist and concrete factories are kind of cool, but this one just feels like, I don't know, an actual factory to me of sorts. So the way it works is we've got 3 lanes, so there's 1 lane here, another one there, and another one there. Each of these are belts of 480 ingots per minute. So downstairs there's a series of refineries mixing water and iron ore, and then we're churning out a nice and clean, even amount of 480, 480, and 480, and then that excess that we talked about is downstairs going somewhere else, which we'll grab in a minute. On the left side, we've got constructors, and on the right side, we've got constructors, but down the center, we have assemblers. So the constructors are color-coded. If they're orange, they're doing iron plates. If they're green, they're doing iron rods. And if they're blue, they're doing screws, right? They're just taking in those iron ingots and fashioning them into those three things. The middle is assemblers, and they're combining those things from either side. So the whole design of the factory was to try and line up the outputs with the inputs, and it just worked really nicely. So we have a series of assemblers here. These ones are doing the reinforced iron plates. They were blueprints originally as well, so it made it quite easy to place them down. And then up ahead, we have the red machines, which are the assemblers for rotors. So the rotors are taking in the rods, they're mixing them with screws, you get rotors. And then both of those buses then travel down and around this way, over towards the actual kind of truck stations or into an awesome sink if they are going into overflow. So that's basically how the place works. It's really, really nice, really clean, super happy with it. Probably my favorite factory in terms of how it all worked. We had a problem for a long time with this specific set of blueprints. Don't know why. The other ones in the back were totally fine, but these ones here were really acting up for a long time, but that has since been fixed. So the machines were getting backed up with screws, but right now they're not. So the problem has been solved. So they're great. They're working at 100%. Everything's totally flawless now in the factory. I'm super happy with it. But the way it was fixed, after much deliberation, was actually just increasing the belt speed in and around this area in here. So the belt travels in here and then goes up and over as a sort of manifold to feed upstairs as well. And by my math, it shouldn't have needed any faster belts after it passed the first two machines, but it just did. So that fixed it. Once the belt was a consistent speed the whole way around, it fixed it. Because we tried things with like stretching out this and bringing these out further. These ones go out longer than all of the other machines, but they don't need to. It was just the belt speed. Lots of testing went into that, but yeah, at least it works now. Alright, so that's how everything works here. So like I said, there's an excess of 231 ingots downstairs. We're going to grab them, and there is an interstitial floor beneath this floor, so it helps you move things around cleanly. And I was thinking of just going out this way. So I'm going to extend the foundations out, create some play space for us, and build space, and then kind of work out what sort of machines I need. And we'll just build out over the area right there. Alright, nicely as well. These are all blueprints. Totally forgot about that. GFIF wall segment. I have no idea what that stands for. GFIF? Something factory. Let me know in the comments if you know. I can't work out what that would be. This is an iron factory, but I'm trying to think if I used that to design a different one. But what would be GFI? I have no idea. Alright, so there we go. So our little extension is now pretty much done, and we can start thinking about how we're going to put in the machines. Yeah, this actually seems like a really easy way to do it. I've already got the blueprints made. They're already facing the right direction. I could just slam these down. I don't need even as many of these. I only need 6, and there's 8 here. But just underclock them all. What's the big deal, right? And then we keep the kind of same look and feel to the factory, which could be kind of nice. I haven't been up here in a really long time. I ran out of quartz crystal for some of the blueprints, so I had to just quickly come up here and grab some of it. This factory is actually really cool as well. I don't mean to be blown smoke up my own ass, but I do like this one a lot too. I haven't been up here in such a long time. Yeah, it should be worth mentioning that as I move from factories and compliment them and say like, oh, this looks so cool and stuff, I think the biofuel factory, the iron factory, and the quartz factory, great. Really, really happy with them. I think aesthetically they're all a little different. They're quite cool. They have their own kind of things going for them. All my other factories kind of suck in terms of visuals, right? It's like the copper Caterium factory is just giant rectangles. The dam portion looks kind of cool, I suppose, and maybe the power control room has a nice kind of cool aesthetic to it. But generally speaking, my other factories are just big giant rectangles, and it's okay, but it, you know, I'm not impressed by those. But that one up there on the hill, I would make that again, you know. The biofuel factory, I would do that again, and this one, I would do again. Alright, so this will be the screws. Again, I only need 6 of these, and I needed 5 of those, so the clock speeds are going to have to be all adjusted. Now these two are actually facing each other so that their outputs just face the same way without me having to make many changes. So we'll see how that goes. And then somewhere here in the center, we're going to have the old reinforced plate, so R plate, I think I have it called. R plate. There it is, stacked assemblers, R plate. Ironically, I'm missing reinforced iron plates to build it, so I'll just go grab some. Alright, we'll just lock it in and we'll work with it, figure it out, do it live. Alright, so that's amended that. That can go in there, that can go there, and you can go there. Okay, cool. So that's the inputs all being fed. Not connected yet, but being fed. Hey, we just passed the 1,000 mark for versatile frameworks. Making good progress. So that's the reinforced iron plates in place. We need one last section to do the actual smart plating. So we could go from there to there. I need about 10 machines in a line. So 5 on the bottom, 5 on top, I guess. Alright, so I've just made an amendment to one of the blueprints we're going to be using. I thought I would just illustrate something. So all of the blueprints in this factory, except for the screws, were actually standalone. So this would just sit on its own, this would sit on its own, and that would sit on its own, and so on and so forth. They didn't interact with each other. This one did interact with that one, right? So these two needed to be connected next to each other. So I've had to amend the blueprint I used for reinforced iron plates, so just like this one. And I've just changed it ever so slightly now to do steel plates, but also so that it can connect to several versions of itself, because we actually need 10 of these machines. So I just type S-plate, sorry, smart plates. I think I said steel plates a second ago. So I'm thinking to pop it right down here. Looks like our corners are aligned. So as you can see, there's no painted beam down on the right side. It is meant to connect to itself. Actually, thinking about it, it shouldn't even be on the left side, because they're going to snap to each other. Can I do one more? Yes, I can. So I'm going to do one more, but I'll cut off the machines on the end. Now, you might be looking at it wondering why aren't the belts hooked up, and that's because I'm not sure which direction things are coming from just yet. So it needs rotors and reinforced iron plates. The reinforced iron plates are here, so I haven't actually given them a direction yet either, but I would imagine they'll actually go into the top row. So these two can feed the top row, and these two can feed the bottom. And that should be enough that comes out of these machines, actually. Because they make 5 per minute. We only need 2 per minute for each machine. So yeah, it works. Alright, so there we have it. Now the top and bottom are being fed. Should be totally fine. We just need to get the rotors over here and have it with an overflow splitter, I guess, so it just takes the amount it needs. Also got to hook up the outputs. I think we're making about 19.8 smart splitters per minute. So it can all go on just the one little belt. But, yeah, it's actually already facing the correct direction, so let's just hook all these in together. And of course, we also have to hook up the smart plating to the floor below so that we can then ship it out to wherever we need it. So it's going to go to the truck station, and then we can go to the silicon factory to get made into many other things. Alright, so this is where the iron ingots are going to come up. 231.3 is what we have right now. So we hit a splitter, so we split evenly. We actually don't need to split evenly. What we really want to happen is 58 of them to go off to the screws, and the remaining to go to the plates. But it's fine. You know, it'll just back up the screws first, and then the plates will get what they need, I guess. So yes, that's where that's going to be. So I'm just going to do a little bit of the cosmetics just to bring this area up to the standard of the other floors, and that way it's not such an eyesore, and then we can continue and turn it all on. Alright, so I just have to make a quick run back to the space elevator just to drop off more steel beams for the versatile frames. We stopped at 1,426. It seems like the steel beams ran out first. We had 1,300 modular frames left, so they're totally fine. So yeah, should be good to go for another while. Just unloaded another full container. We've got another 2,000 or 3,000 left, but obviously I'd say this is more than enough now. Now, as I make my way back over, we might be able to see a little bit. Yeah, we can kind of see the extension of the factory just hovering over the road there. So still a little bit of work to be done, but I've actually mostly finished the inside now. So the power is actually hooked up. It's just waiting to receive some of the material. And what else? Oh, and we have to do more of the kind of ventilation floor. So this is the ventilation floor. I'll have to cut off the iron ingots from coming out to here as well, and just make sure we sink them. Interestingly, there's no smoke coming from these, is there? Oh, there we go. I was like, oh, are all the machines off? No, they're totally fine. So yeah, we're going to have to knock down these walls and push out a bit further. I'll do that in a moment, but push out underneath the new room that we've just created. But here we are. Boom. Looking good. So it's mostly painted. There's still some things. I'd need to reload the game for certain things to take effect, like the lifts. But it should be pretty consistent now with the other side. I've color-coded it the same, so orange for plates. We kind of have a purplish color for... Yeah, it's just hard to kind of see, but the purplish color here for the reinforced iron plates, and then I went with a black for the smart plating, just to be, I don't know, a little bit different. The bits that need to be done, though, would be all this orange that's here and all the blue, so that would have to be color-coded as well. I'll do that later. I don't know, just can't be bothered. It's fine. I'll get to it. I want to get these things running, and while we're waiting on machines, you know, creating the smart plating and so on, then I can go paint them. Alright, so... as you can see, it all has power, it's ready to go, but I need to balance the numbers. Alright, so that means we gotta do a little bit of math. There's no avoiding it, has to be done. We gotta clock these machines down so that everything runs nice and smoothly, just like the rest of the factory. No flickering lights, everything green, perfect. And we get to have that nice effect of just a pure 480 belt, just rolling non-stop. Never stops, no gaps, no breaks, love to see it. So that's the goal of the game, in my opinion. You can try to get to the end if you want, but if your belts are jamming, you're a abomination to fix it, frankly. I wonder, actually, do they care about efficiency? They probably just care about the result. They're a corporation, after all, I guess. Alright, so we have 231.3 ingots. That's what we have in reserve. It's just going into an awesome sink. That's per minute, of course. I had to do a bit of jiggery-pokery behind the scenes, working out how many machines could we support out of that. The trick is... the reinforced iron plates is what we're trying to get to, and it requires twice as many screws as it does iron plates. But the numbers are obviously funky, you know, you need 30 iron ingots to get 20 plates. I don't even know what you need for this. I think it's 12.5 to get 50? Yeah, 12.5 ingots to get 50. So obviously that's a bit of a tricky thing to kind of balance, right? So the way I did it anyway, I'm not saying this is efficient, but I would basically just go, okay, 231.3 divided by 30. Imagine we use all the iron ingots for iron plates. We could sustain 7.71 machines. And then you do that for screws. It's like, well, we could have 18 screw machines. And then you have to basically work out like, okay, times 50, that means that's 925 screws. And for the other one, whatever it was, what was it, divided by 30 times 20, it would be 154 plates. So we know that we need twice as many screws as plates. So you have to kind of just go one by one and say, like, well, what if I chopped away a machine here and chopped away a machine there? So for instance, if we reserved 30 and we went to a 1, you get the number lower and lower, and eventually you get to a number that mirrors the other side. There's probably a more elegant way of doing it. I thought I would just mention that's how I did it. The number I landed on was 172.5, right? 172.5 ingots are going to go into the iron plates. So the trick here is to say 172.5 divided by 8 machines. That would be 21.5625. That's how many ingots they're looking to take in. Just got confused there for a second, but yeah, 21.5625. That's the number of ingots we're looking to take into the machine. So what would be nice is if I could just go up to the machine and click the input and type that number in, and then it would just balance. But unfortunately, the game doesn't let you do that. It only lets you affect the output or the clock speed. So in order to get to that number, we can say that's 21 out of the initial 30. So it's 21 out of 30, which is divided by 30. And that gives us 0.71875 or whatever. So then all we do is we just pop it in brackets again, and we go times 100%. Gives us our percentage, right? So it's 71.875. So every machine has to run at 71.875. So we just put that whole formula into here, and that's how we get it. So we'll copy that, and I'll just apply it to every machine. Alright, so we're set. So that's our 172.5 ingots. So what does that leave us with, right? It's 231.3 minus 172. So it's 58.8. So 58.8 ingots is what we have left. And how many machines do we have down there? We have 8 as well. So 58.8 divided by 8, because we have 8 machines, is 7.35. That's how much each machine is trying to take. Normally they would take 12.5. So again, we just do this division, and then we just times it by 100. And we put our bracket in. And that doesn't seem right. How could that be? Is that right? 58.8 is what each machine needs to be set at? That's really weird if that's the case, but it seems like it. Right, that was a really awkward time for an autosave to pop in, but wow, that's so weird, isn't it? 58.8 ingots is what I have. Therefore, I have to set every machine to 58.8%. That's really weird to me. Sometimes the math just maths, though. I can double check this by saying, okay, 29.4 is the output. 7.35 is the input. Yeah, it's correct. That let me just double check. 7.35. So 7.35 times 8. Yeah, 58.8. What a magic number. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, because that's how many ingots we have. So if that's what it's saying it's taking in, then that's correct. So we'll just set all the machines to have that, and that's our screws done. That's really bizarre, but at least to me, I'm not a math savant. I actually hate math. I flippin' hate it really badly. But as someone who went to college for programming and passed, got my degree and everything, it was just a necessity to kind of like learn it. So I brute forced it and had a tutor and everything. And eventually, you know, you kind of get it, but I don't like it. That's for sure. And this isn't even really math. This is basic stuff compared to what you end up doing with physics and everything. Anyways, right. So that's screws and plates all set. We can then update the signs in a moment. Next up would be the reinforced iron plates. Let me think about this for a sec. So next up would be balancing the reinforced iron plate machines that we have right in front of me. So what I've done for that is we'll just go over to a screw machine and we say 29.4 is their output. So we go 29.4 times 8, because there's 8 of them. So pop that in brackets, and then we'll divide it by a standard intake, which is 60. Alright, so divide that by 60. And now we know that we have 3.92. So that means that we'll need 3 machines at 100% and one of them at 0.92. Or obviously we can try to balance them all like I've been doing. So that's all well and good. But the question is, have I done the math right? Are the iron machines going to equal the same number? Now, spoiler alert, I know that they won't. The iron machines will actually be slightly lower. So 3.92 is, you know, pretty good. So 92%. Is what one of the machines would have to be. So let's do the same thing, but for the iron plates. So 14.375. So we'll just replace this number. 14.375 times 8, the 8 machines, divided by the intake, which is 30. And that gets us 3.83. So it's 83%, as opposed to, what was it, 92% or something? So we're like 9% off. So I've got a little bit of extra screws that I don't need. And that's just as close as I could get to balancing it. There's probably a way that I'm just not smart enough to do, where you can find out how to use every... Like, certainly it seems like you could raise these a few extra percent and bring them down a few extra percent and find that absolute sweet spot where everything is being used. There has to be a number there somewhere. I don't know how to get to that number, but you can let me know in the comments if you want. Just no massive, giant, huge paragraph posts. Because I do try to read all my comments, but when people post, like, you know, pages of stuff, I'm like, look, I can only be so invested in reading them. But I do appreciate people take the time to do that. It's nice, but I just can't. It takes far too long to read it, for me anyway. Anyways, what this ultimately means is we're going to go with that number, 3.83333 recurring. So times 5. So we're making 19.16 whatever. So I'll pop that in brackets, and we'll divide it by 4. Because we have 4 machines. So that's what the output's going to be. 4.79, etc. And that's how many smart plates we'll make as well. Because it's the same. They're 1-to-1. So we'll copy that, 4.79. Now, if we want this factory to run at 100%, it means that I need an overflow splitter for the screws. So they never get kind of backed up. Because they would eventually. So we could contain them somewhere. It's always nice to have a tiny bit of screws. Sometimes you need them for awesome shops or whatever it might be. But in terms of production amount, it's not really enough to ever send to any factory, so throwing it in an awesome sink is probably just the best thing. Anyways, so there we go. We've set all of the reinforced iron plate machines now. Their outputs are 4.791667. Okay, final leg of the journey is doing the smart plating machines. Let's figure that one out. So we could just simply go divide this by 10. And that's what every machine is going to take in, 1.916, etc. So again, using this kind of technique of saying like, well, what is that divided by the intake of 2? It's 0.95. So that's the number that we need to set the clock speed to of every machine. So it was pretty close to 100%. I forgot to times it by 100. There we go. So yeah, pretty close, 95.83 recurring. We'll just copy that setting and apply it to all of these. And then that's pretty much it. We can start to turn them on. Although we do have to reroute some of the stuff. And I got to burn all those ingots that have clogged up the truck station. So that'll be the next thing. Alright, with 2 belts of 480, both draining the iron ingots out of this place now. It's about 1,000 a minute. So yeah, give or take 4 minutes, and that'll be empty, and we'll be able to reassign it to say smart plating. In fact, we could just do that now. It's a very low res image for some reason. Plating, there we go. Better. And this needs to be this number, 19.16 recurring. We'll just leave it like that. Alright, cool. So there we go. Smart plating going into number 3, or will be in a moment. Alright, so here we are. So I think this is now in line with where it needs to go, which is just straight down here. Sorry it's so dark. Yep, there it is. Alright, cool. I'll just make that a Mark III as well. And just send this the whole way as far down as we can. Nice, so there we go. Iron ingots are now traveling. So this is already powered on, so it's just going to get going as soon as it receives stuff. In fact, I think everything's now hooked up. I might need to adjust some of the belt speeds. But I think we're pretty much ready. That's a Mark 1. Yeah, that's going to be a 3. And that's going to be a 3. That's already a 3, and that's a 2. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, cool. So that's pretty much it. Iron ingots are now going to start flowing into these machines. Just while I'm waiting, I'm going to just grab the blue color. I actually haven't saved it for some reason as a preset, so just going to grab that. There we go. Hey, there we have it. Iron ingots are here, just like that. And I'm just going to adjust this so I can color some of these belts properly. So that's been done, and that's been done. Yeah, those have actually been set, but I need to restart the game for it to take effect. So, here we go. This will be the beginning of smart plating. Now, we'll let the machines just do their thing for a little while. I have to go downstairs again into the ventilation floor and actually hook up the inputs of rotors and the output for the smart plating themselves. Alright, this is a fun little bit of logic. So the rotors along the bottom go into a smart splitter, the priority of which is to go straight ahead. So it'll flow out this way and go downstairs into a truck station. So your priority number 1 is actually the truck station. Not super happy about that, but it's just the way it's kind of worked out. So that's fine. I mean, the priority is other factories first, I guess, which is not too bad. If that gets backed up, you will then overflow out the left into this smart splitter, which has a priority to go downstairs and all the way towards these smart plating machines in the distance, which we haven't hooked up just yet. If that gets overflowed, then you go along to the right and you merge with your little buddy who's doing reinforced iron plates to go into an awesome sink, which is where it's going right now. The top line is pretty much as it was. Reinforced iron plates go along, priority is to the truck station. If truck station is full, go into the awesome sink. So that's pretty straightforward. I'll just color that machine as well correctly. Alright, so let's check the damage. So now we've got a floor hole right here that's begging to go into a wall hole over here. So we'll just grab this one. Something like that. Let's see if we can make this look some way decent. It's going to be hard to kind of gauge the height, and I think the height's a little off what it would normally be, but let's try there. So a Mark 1 belt's obviously totally fine for this. Yeah, nailed it. First try. So let's just switch this. It's going to be the red line. Oh, damn. Alright, let's just paint that accordingly as well. Cool. Alright, so we now have our... And we can get rid of this area. Do I have any room in my inventory? I do. So that's done. And you're done. Now, one of the awkward things is we need to come out of that floor hole. It doesn't quite line up with the inputs here, but let's see if we can make it happen. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been watching for a while, you might know that I have this current issue, which is during autosaves, my recording just stops. The audio keeps going, but the actual video recording does get interrupted for some reason. Not too sure why, but it does happen. So, I normally just hit record. It's not a big deal, it's one click, but I missed it. I didn't catch it, and for some reason I kept on chatting and talking and just never clocked the fact that I'd missed it. So, what has happened is I've turned on the machines, smart plating is starting to roll out, and then I actually left the factory and I was like, alright, we're done here. Went off and I started thinking about how to make stators, but then I realized what was happening. Realized there was no recording. So, came back to the factory, and I then also realized that there was a slight error. One of the belt speeds for screws was too low. So I've sped that up now, so screws are slowly making their way out, but because they're backfilled, but they will normalize. There was a good problem to catch. I just thought I would catch everyone up on that. So what you missed was me basically down underneath this floor, just hooking up the belts and then feeding them into machines. It was actually really fun. Not to be mean, but getting the first smart plating out was really cool, and then I kind of raced ahead of it to get to it before it arrived in the truck station. Now, something I haven't checked is how many we've produced since then. So this will give you an indication. You know, we're making 19 per minute. It'll give you an indication of how many minutes have gone by, because we'll see how many's there now. So we'll just head downstairs. But everything's working. It's all really neat. It was just slightly getting backed up, one of the things. So this is actually where the autosave, I think, killed me. And we currently have 176. So if we were doing 176, let's see how many minutes it's been. 176 divided by 20. It's been about 8 minutes. It's actually not that crazy, although it's been a bit longer because we haven't actually been running the machines fully, so we've probably been running at about 14. Yeah, so 12, 13 minutes. So not too bad, but just thought I would catch you up on how that happened, how that all went down. I suppose it also took a while for the first batches to arrive here, so you could probably add a couple extra minutes too. Alright, so smart plating, now that that's done, we are hopefully now making 19.16 per minute. And the factory is super neat, looks really good, very happy with it, but we're going to move on now. So we're going to head over to the Copper Caterium factory. Alright, so it's a little bit dark, but you find me at the Copper Caterium factory. If you watched the previous episode, you'll recognize these 4 belts. These are the copper belts that are feeding into the motor portion of the silicon factory, as well as many other things. So yeah, this is turned into wire, which combines with steel in order to make stators. Now, we need to make stators again, but I'm going to go with a slightly different recipe. There's only actually one other recipe, and we're going to be using quick wire to do it. So, stators, if we open this up, this is the current recipe we're using for all of that motor production, right? So it's 15 steel pipe per minute, 40 wire per minute, gives us 5 stators. Great. The one we're going to use is slightly more steel pipe, so 1 extra per minute. And then 20 extra wire, but in the form of quick wire, of course, so 60 quick wire per minute, giving you 8 stators per minute. So we're going to go with this one because I needed higher volume because I'm limited, I'm constrained by how many steel pipes I have. Alright, here we are. So, bay number 6 is the one we care about. This is the one taking in steel pipe at the moment, 470 per minute. Now, I know that we produce 800 per minute from the factory that this is produced at. So it's coming from the coke factory to the silica factory, or silicon factory, which is where we are now. So that means we've got 330 steel pipe unaccounted for, which is actually already being delivered here. The factories are so close that you don't need another truck or anything else. But we could have pulled it to another factory if we wanted to, but it's basically coming here anyway. So what we're going to do is bring steel pipe upstairs and use that 330 in the recipe we just looked at. So what we got to do is open up Stators again and say, how many are we consuming? 16 per minute. So 330 divided by 16 is 20.625 machines is how many we need. Times, we need 60 quick wire, right? So that's 1,237 quick wire per minute that we need. So that's at least 2 belts. So we're going to bring 2 belts of quick wire into the factory, and then just 1 belt of steel pipe that will come out of this slot right here and go straight upstairs. So that's the plan. It should be pretty straightforward. It's only 20 assemblers, so it's really not that bad. Nice to see the quick wire and the copper sheets flowing, but the copper ingots look like they're a little patchy, if I'll be honest. A little stop-starty. Not liking that. That's kind of a problem for another day. I don't want to get too bogged down with that, but I would imagine that's happening because of copper ore being a little short. But anyways, that's not what we're here to focus on. We're going to be building stators. So we had just said that we make 330 steel pipes coming into this factory. They consume at 16 per minute. That leaves us with 20.625 machines. So we need 20 machines, 21 machines, one of them underclocked. The output of which is 8. That would mean we're going to make 165 stators. We're going to divide that between 22 machines, which means each machine will make 7.5 as an output. Right, so why am I adding a little extra machine? Well, it's because I've made 2 blueprints for it. Assembler 2, stator quick wire. So 2 assemblers are grouped together, and they're set to make stators using the quick wire variant. So we'll just lock one of them in here, right here on the edge. Make sure it's just lined up with our foundations. That looks like it's okay. Alright, so we're going to need 10 of these. 5 of one version and 5 of another version. In fact, it actually might be 6, thinking about it. I'll talk about why in a moment. Well, really, I could talk about it while I'm placing them down. So and that one's just gone somewhere where it shouldn't have. The amount of quick wire that we need is too high for one belt to run a manifold the whole way down, so instead what we got to do is make two variants of the same blueprint, one with a belt raised. Alright, so that should be the amount we need. So these are our lowered belts and those are our raised belts. Let me just go downstairs to see where that rogue blueprint has gone. It's just somewhere, wedged itself somewhere inside my factory. Yeah, there it is. You can just about see it. There we go. Get that out of there. Okay, so they're all in place, looking good. They'll need to be connected, but we need to sort this out because the first 10 machines, which end here, so the 11th machine needs to have a raised belt. And that's to say that then halfway there's 11 machines with the raised belt and 11 with the lowered belt. And that way we're consuming the exact same amount of quick wire and the two different quick wire belts we're bringing in. It just balances logistics a little bit better. It's not necessary, but it just helps. Helps mentally organize things. Alright, we'll just lock that in. So that's all well and good. Now, I've blueprinted it so that the output is 7.5, so this has been accounted for already. So, of course, we just looked at it anyway, but 7.5 times 22 is 165. So that's the amount of stators that we're going to make per minute. So I'm just going to hook these belts up now, and we can move on to the next part. Alright, there we go. So now all of our belts are hooked up. So the top two belts are going to be quick wire for the two different, like, kind of sets of the same assemblers, and the bottom belt is just going to be continuous steel pipe that rolls the whole way down. So we got to feed these two, right? These are the two inputs, and we have to make sure that we pull out two quick wire. So one there and one here. So I've gone with the center one this time, just to line up with those machines really nicely, which I guess is okay. Just makes things a bit more complicated in terms of trying to feed over there. And is that the height that we need to be at? Probably. Yeah, I'm just going to work that out and then pull that over here. Alright, so next logistical challenge. I need to get the steel pipes that come out of here to go to there. I'm just wondering, should I just go straight up and handle it upstairs, or should I run like a belt along the ceiling? Kinda don't really like ceiling belts. You can't see them anyway, so you kind of lose some of the satisfaction of watching your belts do things. But it might be messy upstairs, so I'm just gonna have to figure that one out too. Yeah, I think we're just gonna go with the old lift technique and just bring it straight up. Seems more elegant. Alright, so let's just then connect this in. And that should be steel pipe now flowing into the machines. I have to give the machines power, which you can do in a moment. So that'll be making its way down this way. Power lines, we'll just connect this straight across to one of these machines for now. Yeah, so let's just grab a power line here. I guess I'll just put down a pole just so I know what's happening and connect that in. Right, so the machines now all have power, so they should be receiving their steel pipe. And now we need to send in the quick wire. So quick wire can just go in this side and this side. And that should be it. They're now capable of making stators, although we're not doing anything with it yet. We just have it going to the outputs here, but traveling along and then just ending in a dead end. But that is another 165 stator per minute. Now, none of these numbers are really going to reach that threshold until eventually getting those 780 belts, right? It's always going to be a little under, a little stop-starty. But generally speaking, you know, we'll still progress this milestone. Then we're in a good position just to upgrade the belts and have everything ready to go in future. Alright, there we go. First stators are rolling out, and they're hitting a dead end. But at least they're working. So, we can now mark that off the to-do list. So that's stators done. The next thing would be doing automated wiring. So, automated wiring. Automated wiring requires the stators and cable to make automated wiring, but you only make 2.5 per minute. It's quite a low amount. I'm tempted to go with this one. You know, it's slightly more stators, and instead of cable we provide wire, which I think I've got a lot. I think it's totally fine to be able to use that, but then we need high-speed connectors. That would require quick wire again, and potentially silica with circuit boards. And that's what had my ears perk up when when I read it. You know what I mean? I got interested. My eyebrow raised. How about that? When I saw it, because I was like, huh, got silica, got circuit boards. Seems like it's not too big of a leap to try and make these guys. And we've a giant factory making quick wire, of course. So, yeah, let's just do a little in-between step for high-speed connectors. Right, so I'm in the copper Caterium factory, and what you see in front of me, this mess, is where all of our wire gets made. Now the wire is just completely stopped because it's completely backed up, because all of the 4 bottom belts are designated to go into making cable off in the distance, right? So they make cable over there. Cable's not going anywhere, so everything's just backed up, right? So there's a bit of a problem. You'll notice the top 4 belts aren't doing anything right now, and that's because they'll only do something if we were to upgrade the factory. So it's a bit of an issue. So what I'm probably going to do is, instead of all 4 going to make cable, I'll leave 2 to go make cable, and I'll take 2 away and send it over to what we need, because we just need 2 of those belts. So we're halving our cable production for now until we can beef up the amount of ingots we make once we get a 780 belt. So that seems reasonable to me. It's like we don't need all this cable. It's not going anywhere. But it means like, okay, we're halving the production. And yeah, that seems fine to me, right? So let's do that. Now again, it's the same sort of situation here where there's 3 moving in this way and there's 3 that are empty. If I remember correctly, further down there's even more. So I'll have to have a look, but I'm pretty sure I can squeeze out a 4th belt with no issue. Alright, so I've been able to obtain another belt of quick wire. It was actually relatively easy. A lot of the factory has been already built. Everything's in place. It just needs faster belt speeds. And a lot of the quick wire was done when I had Mark III. So I was able to just easily bump it up to Mark IV. And that basically gave me another batch of 12 or so machines that were doing it that I was able to just like plug onto a belt. Same sort of thing for wire. That was done with Mark III in mind as well, so I was able to easily just bump that up to get a bit of a better speed as well. Right, so we're just going to bring this across the sky bridge here, and then we have to kind of decide how we're going to divide it up in the factory itself. But this should be everything, I think, that's planned to come across. I think so, anyway. I don't think there's any more copper products that we need. Alright, so just made a new blueprint for high-speed connectors. We're going to need 8 of these machines, or 9, kind of. One of them will be underclocked, but I've actually set the clock speed in the blueprint so that we can have 9, but it'll basically equal out to doing 8 in terms of their output. Right, so machines, we have the manufacturer high-speed connectors. So this is where the old awesome sync was, handling the spillover from circuit boards. So I wanted to align this with the output for circuit boards here, if I could. So we'll have to move that forward. And that should be totally fine. I'll pick up that crate in a moment from the awesome sync. Let's move that over. Alright, so that's 1. So we need 9 of these in total. So that's going to be 2, 3, and 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now the nice thing with this is that we built this based off of the 780 divided by 90. So a 780 belt divided by 90, which is quick wire. If we just get rid of that, it means that we need 8.6 recurring machines. So that's what they're clocked to already. So we just have a quick look at one. They're clocked to 96.333. There we go. Just connected the bottom belt to itself and just adjusted the smart splitter to allow them to pass through. There's also this belt, which is taking some of them. So the priority goes to the computers first and then to the high-speed connectors, but there should be more than enough for both. Easily, actually, and even before the upgrade. Alright, so I'm just going to have to connect these together to assign power, and then we can connect the other belts as well. Alright, so we can let these guys receive their circuit boards. In fact, I'll just pop this maybe here and connect that over. There we go. They should be able to receive circuit boards now, and then we just have to connect the other belts. I also need to do the mergers to hook up their outputs, but until we hook up the inputs, I guess it's fine. Alright, so I've just fixed the belt on the left, but now we can actually pull this one down and get it over towards the manufacturers. So we'll go down to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And get our conveyor pull to go up 3 layers. Mark IV belts. And continue over the copper sheets, which is fine. This can now travel over the circuit boards in a rather elegant fashion, although it is quite high off the ground, but it kind of has to be for the inputs of where it's going. But the nice thing about this is it's traveling alongside a good that's going into the same place. So it makes sense to have them travel, you know, together and go up and over each other. Now, the manufacturers needed a Mark II belt, so these guys have to travel up on top, just like that. Is that the right height? Yeah. Alright, so that's our second resource. Now we need to get our third resource to go in. It has to go in somewhere down here on the bottom. It's going to be silica. So silica is already coming up this way. That's feeding into there. Now each row does the exact same thing, so I could maybe just go straight up, if that would make sense. I might have to drill down and see exactly where I need to line these up, because it would be here, but this is in the way, so it would really have to come up here and then just feed into the left. We'll just start drilling and see what's right down below. Oh, it's perfect. Okay, cool. So you can stop what you're doing. And you can go away. We'll make you a Mark II. Or a 2-meter foundation. Put that away now. Right, so we have that in position. Let's just make this a Mark IV. 2, 3, 4, I think. That needs to go in there. So bring that back up, and in you go. Alright, cool. That'll be correct. Let's just grab this, and we'll travel down with it. Ah, looks like there's extra... some weird misalignment or something going on there. But no fear. Let's just throw this in. Oh, yeah, it is misaligned. Is this not in line? That's in line with that. But this isn't. Alright. How weird. Bad blueprint. It does kind of bother me. I'm not going to delete all of these, but... and why is this a thing? What's going on? Oh yeah, it looks like the blueprint was slightly off when it was first placed, and I must have realized that and tried to cover it up. Oh darn, you took the lazy way out. You took the lazy way out, and now you're dealing with the annoyances / problems. Right, I'm just gonna move this one. Where is the center now, actually? Here. Where it should be. This belt can bear the brunt of the misalignment. This can just go in. And yeah, that would be a job for another day if I ever want to clean that up. It's a slight misalignment, but it's not too bad. But yeah, it's a bit annoying that it's had to do that. Anyway, so this is now giving these guys a way to send in the silica. So that's going to be producing the high-speed connectors now. So we'll check them in a minute. But first, I need to grab the old belt and send it back up where it was going originally. So we're cutting one off from the awesome sink altogether. So that would be going here. Get rid of that. Same thing, Mark IV. This can come all the way down now. And there you go. So that's reconnected. So that doesn't need to be here really anymore, other than, I suppose we're not consuming technically everything. So I wanted to be really thorough. I suppose we could put in something like this. Let's just go do a foundation here for a second. Cool. So when the manufacturers now get backed up, that will send silica into here. Because we're consuming something like 350, but it makes 600 on the belt. Alright, so we can plug those gaps again, and then we can just watch our high-speed connectors roll out. Of course, we have to build mergers. I don't want to do that just yet, but we can see that we are producing them, so it is working. 26 divided by 1.875. So we need 13 machines to make this automated wiring. I think I will go with just 13, and that way we can save up some high-speed connectors on the side with that little bit of excess, because we can use that for building every now and then. They're pretty rare that you need them for building, but I don't really have a problem with doing that. Alright, I think we're just about ready to go, so we'll open up our blueprints again, we'll scroll down, we get our manufacturer with automated wiring, and I'm going to basically position it right around here, somewhere like that, and we'll just line this up so that it's centered with a foundation, just to make life a little easier, and that's okay there too. Alright, good. 1. So we need 13 of these. We don't need them, but I'm going to go with 13. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, so we're just right on the edge there, but there's actually quite a lot of space here. So we could always extend out the building at least to the road, and that's okay. And then I can put my truck stations for sending stuff out of here on the backside, rather than this side, the backside, rather than this side. So yeah, that might work out a bit better. Okay, so anyways, it's pretty straightforward. Just need to hook these all up together now. So the first thing I can do is hook up the high-speed connectors, and they're going to be going out this way and then rolling around. So let's do that. Alright, just given the manufacturer's power, so now the high-speed connectors that are connected and rolling around are going to start feeding in. One of the problems with a manifold this long, when the input is really low, like 1.875, it can take a long time to fill all that up. Also because the output is low here. Obviously if the output was high and the input was low, it'd be fine, but the output is 3 per minute. You know, so we're doing, what, 26 per minute? So even just to fill one machine, it would take 4 minutes to reach 100. And then you kind of have that knock-on effect of, well, that's consuming some over time, and then it's slower and slower to get to the very end. So it could be a really long time before it actually gets all the way down, but that's the drawback of a manifold, I guess. Did I have to do that? Could I have just plugged machines directly into each other? Maybe. Maybe. No. Conveyor Mark 3, in you go. Mark 3. So we're making about 160 something stators, right? So Mark 3 should be enough. Just bring this along to here. In you go. Now, the question is, stators is actually going to that height, so you don't really need to come down actually from there. We could stay up at that point, as long as we just have a conveyor stackable that lets us turn into our buddy, which is here. 1, 2. Okay, so that should be stators rolling on, just like that. And, oh yeah, I have to actually hook these up together, so I'll do that next. Alright, the belts are almost ready to go. I just realized I didn't do what I did before, which is I think I need 2 separate belts, don't I? Because it's 75 wire. So 75 times 13 machines, it's 975. Alright, so there we go. So the stators have been filled in, the high-speed connectors have been filled in. It's just the wire that needs to go in now. So we've got the 2 different belts. 6 of them are raised, and 7 of them are not. So it's not an even amount like I did with the assemblers. I would have if I could have, but I didn't forward plan it well enough. And also the manufacturers have such a large blueprint and footprint, I should say. It's not that easy just to go, oh, I'll just add another machine and then like underclock them. You can, obviously, but it feels kind of wasteful for space. Anyways, so this is where we're coming in from. An awkward spot. And we want to drag these belts all the way down. Yeah, they're basically heading right there. That's good. Okay, cool. It's actually in line with... I totally meant that, right? It's in line with where it needs to go, but that center one is perfect. That one would have to go down and to the right or whatever. So, God, we're getting serious now, aren't we? Look at the amount of belts we've got going, and they're all like, you know, churning quite a high volume. Now, these belts are going to be coming in higher than they need to be, I think, so they'll have to like drop down a layer. So we could do it here, or maybe we'll just go a bit further and just use an actual lift to do that. Might look a bit neater. That would make a little bit more sense, I think. Yeah, there we go. So now it's the same curvature, I guess, right? Alright, cool. So there we go. So that's that took a little while, but we've moved everything around now. The wire's in place, stators in place, high-speed connectors flowing in. We've got 100 in this one already, 100, 99, 58. Ah, well, you know, the first 4 or 5 machines will get there. We'll start processing anyway. So that's going to be automated wiring cooking up a storm. Right, so all of that was in service of making adaptive control units. So that's the automated wiring, circuit boards, heavy modular frames, and computers. So we should still have enough circuit boards. We're only using 26. So if we just go back over to the little thing I wrote down, that's 26 out of the current amount, which is basically 50. And the total amount will be 90, so really we should be considering the 90 number. So 90 minus 26 is like 60 or whatever. So that's how many circuit boards we'll roughly have available to do what we need to do. Also got, you know, something like 100 automated wiring. So we're consuming 7.5 per minute. The interesting thing there is each of these machines are 1-to-1 then, right? 7.5 out, 7.5 in. So we could just put a whole layer of machines right in front of these ones, and their outputs could feed directly in, nice and load balanced. For that, at least. It wouldn't be load balanced for any of the other stuff, but might be kind of nice. That would mean doing 13 adaptive control units per minute. I'm tempted to get the modular engines going though, because we need 500, so maybe we should do that next. We have everything now in the factory for that. Right, we have the motors, the rubber, and the smart plating is ready. We just need to drive it in. Yeah, somewhere like here. That looks okay to me. Why not? Why the hell not? So this is going to be taking in smart plating. I'll have to build out the road a little bit more on this side then and change the sort of look and feel of this one. But we can get to that. I can at least just chop away some bits for now. Right, so there we go. Little truck station. We filled in the gap between here and the road. The road might have to move out further in the future. I don't know. It should be okay, I think. But this is going to be unloading, and we're going to be taking in smart plating. So yeah, we make about 20 smart plating per minute. So that's kind of what's going to set the rate of what's going on here. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the truck station is now in place. I actually had a crash, so I've lost about another 10 or 15 minutes. This recording has been plagued with many things. I've actually done it over numerous days, and I feel like today my voice is a little different, so apologies if I sound a bit weird. Anyways, we're on the last stretch, last leg of the journey, and I've just ticked off doing automated wiring, because that's obviously done, that's upstairs, that's all well and good. So this is where our motors had been coming up before. So that little spot there, and that one there. They're going into these containers, so I've just moved the motors into there, and I've moved the heavy modular frames that was in a container over there into here. So just a little bit of storage before we probably will just end up awesome syncing it. And that's just some of my inventory, because obviously I needed to get things for the next manufacturers that we're going to place. So got another blueprint. Of course, these are all just variations of the same blueprints I'm using today. But we have manufacturer mod engine. So we need 10 of these, 9.58 to be exact. I think we'll start on the very edge just to match the manufacturers that are down there. And then see if we can align this with the center of a foundation, so our inputs are okay. So the way I've done it is that the first input is going to be smart plating coming from there. I've just hooked this up to coal and given it a little sign. The roof was lower on the actual truck station side, but it's not on this side. Excuse me, maybe it will be one day, but for now I just decided to try to make it look kind of nice, like it's just on stilts hanging down. Okay, is a stilt correct terminology for something that hangs down? Normally things stand on stilts. But if you just look at this upside down, it's stilts, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's going to be 5 there. Now I've created an alternate version that has inverted inputs and outputs, and we want these to be, I guess, within a tile away from each other and aligned with each other, so we can feed them into the same mergers. So it would just be a little bit nicer that way. And then make sure this is in the center. Bonk. Yeah, that looks okay to me. Okay, cool. So 1, and we just need to go 5 of these again. Now, I think I saved the blueprint with the correct... I did it yesterday. I think I saved it with the correct clock speed in there. We'll have a look in a moment. Alright, so that's all 10. Easy as that. That one's not too bad. And yeah, it looks like it's right, 96. So it was probably more fine-tuned, and I hit enter, and it probably just rounds it, because I believe it needed to go to 958. Yeah, so it's rounded up just a little bit. That's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. All right, so I'm just going to connect these, and then we can feed in, start to, you know, it's the process all over again. That's what we've been doing all day, basically. All right, so the machines are in place. The belts are all hooked up to each other. I've also just hooked up the smart plating, right? So obviously we haven't delivered smart plating yet, but it will come in here, goes up and over the coal, splits on this little splitter, and then gets fed to the 2 areas. Now, there was coated concrete here. I'll probably just make it normal concrete, and there's enough space for a 3x3 sort of staircase or something that leads upstairs, or a hypertube if you want to make it a bit more neat. I've also just started feeding some of the motors, and then I realized, hey, I'm supposed to be talking through this kind of thing. So that's one group going in, and we'll just get the next one basically do the same thing right over here. It's kind of nice because it'll be following the same sort of trajectory. So 4, and then we'll go like this, 1, 2, and then if we could find the same snap point along here, that'll just make things look a little bit nicer, I think. Alright, so that's the next set of motors going in. So obviously we now need automated wiring, which is going to come down from upstairs. I think roughly it's over there. So I'll have to go upstairs and look for that. Speaking of staircases, we really need one. The other thing I thought was worth mentioning is there's space empty here. I'll probably put down a new awesome sink. We've got a few over there doing all of that silica. They're needed because the volume of silica is so high. But over here, the volume of heavy modular frames, which is this row here, the volume of modular engines, which is like 10 per minute, these are really low. The same with motors that are coming up from below. If we could make a generalized awesome sink that they can all kind of pool into, not only is it more power efficient because you've only got one machine running at 30 megawatts, but it'll also stop and start less frequently. If you're feeding 10 per minute into an awesome sink, it's not enough to keep the sink constantly running. It cuts in and out. It's pretty frustrating, actually, if you care about clean lines, I guess. So yeah, so having a more generalized awesome sink is actually a little bit of an improvement, which will be good. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm going to run upstairs, see where we can bring down these automated wiring, and then we'll hook them in. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being really silly. The automated wiring isn't needed for modular engines, that's for adaptive control units, so we don't actually have to bring it down here. Instead, we just need to feed rubber over to this area, and rubber comes in via a truck, so let's just find that. Alright, we've got an interesting problem. Rubber is coming in right there, and it just goes upstairs to be made into other things. Its target that I'm looking for, secondary target, will be over here. You know, to that row of machines. There's a lot of machines in the way. We could travel along the ceiling. I've mentioned that before. Or could possibly throw in another truck station. Alright, that seems like it'll be totally fine. So let's do it. Now the only thing is, yeah, well, I'll just clear this fence. This is just going to become one big road. The roof is probably going to extend out here. This is all just going to be considered inside that building. Because that's all this road is used for anyway. Alright, there we go. Yeah, so I'm going to have to just hop in a truck and make sure that this route is redone so that we can actually deliver this. And then we're going to hop in a truck and do the same for smart plating. Probably have to clear some of these barriers as well, because obviously trucks need to pull in here, which I didn't give them a chance to do. Alright, here we are, the first delivery of smart plating. So this will turn on the machines, and they'll start making modular engines. So we're now number 10, as number 9 is shifted down to be a secondary rubber truck station. That's just easier for logistics, I guess, in terms of moving belts up and over, and the truck kind of passed by this road anyway, so it just kind of made sense. But, yep, still got to close this loop, though, so I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I've returned. I can see some green lights, which means our first modular engines are getting created. Now, I've just parked up the Explorer here because I just need to make 500, load it up into that, and then drive it over to the space elevator and just kind of dump it in. There's no point really in trying to set up some sort of automated thing to go there because it's only going to be used once, and then it'll just have to go to a different factory eventually anyway. So instead, what we'll do is just create some sort of storage container that can take 500 of these bad boys. I'm saying that a lot today, and yeah, we should be good. Alright, there we have it. The first batch of modular engines are rolling out. Still need to connect up these belts though. I'll just send this all the way down into that little storage container and then just let them accumulate. Once we get to 500, we'll just package them up and send them on their way. But while we're waiting, we're of course then going to make adaptive control units. We're finally at the end. Alright, so I've got the blueprint ready to go, and I know where our heavy modular frames are going to be coming up. I'm going to keep the machines facing the same direction, just because I think it'll look nice, and these are all stalled right now, because the automated wiring is nowhere to go. Not that I mind, the manifold is still getting backed up with those, it's the high-speed connectors. Right, so here is the blueprint. Just going to line it up with one of the machines there. Not that it matters, but I don't know. It's a little bit of consistency. It's kind of nice. And I was going to place down 5. So we'll just bring this... Is this... Oh, it's actually in line already. So that's good. Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I was initially actually going to go with 10. We'll just have a look at the recipe really quickly. So we're producing just 1 per minute. So I was going to do 10, and that way we'd make 100 in 10 minutes. And I was like, yeah, that'd be not too bad. But it just seems I'd be messing with the numbers a lot. You know, we'd be consuming almost all the automated wiring we make. That'd be more circuit boards than we currently have, but not more than we will have in the future if we upgrade the belts. And it's a lot of our computers. It's 10 out of the 20 we currently have. But again, in the future, we'll probably have closer to 30, 35 or something like that. I can't remember the exact number. So I don't know. I was just kind of not feeling it. I didn't want machines turning on and off. So I think what I'm instead going to do is just put down 5, more reasonable number. We'll connect all these up together, but I'm going to power shard them. We'll double their productivity just for a little bit, and then I'll remove those shards once we've made what we need. So that way, I'm only waiting 10 minutes. At least that's the idea. So yeah, I'm just going to get connecting all this stuff up, and then we'll progress. Alright, so the first ingredient is going to be the heavy modular frames. Bonk! And that can start making its way very slowly upstairs now. Next one's going to be the automated wiring, of which we first have to connect the machines, let them empty out. They're being completely blue balls. They're backed up, and we can give them that sweet release. So there you go. It's late, okay? It's been many days. I'm tired. We had the steel pipe joke in the previous episode. Let's just run with it, okay? Instead of Satisfactory AF, it's Satisfactory OF. Oh man, it's good to see though. Look at that. What a load of automated wiring that can finally roll out. So it's Mark II belt at the moment. It only needs a Mark 1, but we make enough to supply a Mark II belt. But eventually it'll have to go somewhere as fall off, or overflow I should say. So that's going to be automated wiring now slowly making its way out. On the flip side, on the flippity flip, we have heavy modular frames that have arrived, and they're going to be going into the machines. They have been powered, so they're actually going to receive their material now. Okay, so next thing is circuit boards and computers. So we have these two belts here, just going off generally into this direction, and computers is ended there, and then circuit boards goes along here. Again, it's going to have to split yet again and find a way over this way. So I'm just going to hook all that up now. Alright, so just got a normal splitter there, breaking off 60 circuit boards per minute. I decided not to use an overflow because it's a bit strange waiting on other machines to back up, and I feel like there's a few instances in this video where I should go back and change smart splitters to just have lower belt speeds. Probably would be the right thing to do. So yeah, so this can now just connect it. But anyway, long story short, we need 25. We're breaking off 60, but at least that allows the original overflow splitter, which is there, all the way at the back, kind of at the source of the circuit boards. That should make it work just a bit more cleanly without being dependent on other machines and lines all the time. But there we go. So that's computers just reaching the destination for the first time now. And it's going to take a little while for circuit boards to get up here. But what we can do is just hook up our outputs and then also check downstairs to see how many modular engines we've made. Alright, so our mergers are now in place in our tiny little storage container, and the very first adaptive control unit is being made right now as we speak. Or I should say pair, because they do come out in pairs. Now, I've noticed these guys take so long to get going. You know, it's a 2-minute wind-up time, but I'm just throwing in those power shards now. We're just going to go up to 200%. We should have enough on the belt speeds and everything to still be okay with this. That should allow them to crank them out a little bit quicker now. Hey, why isn't... Oh, actually, that's kind of interesting. I never noticed that before. This one must have already just triggered the next cycle, but these are on the original cycle, so they're still green. That's kind of cool to know. So they have power shards and they're ready to go, but until the next cycle, they won't flash blue. That's alright. Anyway, then we're going to be making 2 per minute as opposed to 1 per minute. So, you know, every little helps. And there we go. We can see our lovely little balls rolling out. Lovely pair. My god. I don't know what's up with me. Like I said, it's late. All sorts of ideas are in my head. You know, I'm sitting here looking at factories and I'm just thinking, you got to get that cylinder, hot cylinder, into that nice... Oh yeah. Oh, so good. Alright, so we're waiting on that 100 to build up. Let's just go check our modular engines really quickly and see how we're doing. Because it's been running for a little while, so we might have a couple hundred by now. And we're seeing green lights across the board, which is a little misleading because we do dump in a lot into the truck stations each time. You have to kind of let it play out for a little bit just to make sure that you're doing okay, but I'm sure we are. I've been careful enough. So how many is this? 374. Wow, it's more than I anticipated. How much time has passed then? 0.96 per minute. We're doing 10 of them. So it's basically 10 per minute. Doesn't feel like it's been that long, but yeah, okay, fair enough. Sweet. So now we just wait. I just wait until I get 500. We'll drive and drop it off at the space elevator. In fact, might even just for the fun of it go make that drive now. Alright, so just pulling up to our little truck station here. Obviously, I removed all of the assemblers once that versatile framework project was complete. Now we can load up the 330 or 350 modular engines we have. And slowly let it trickle in. That way I can kind of watch the UI tick up. I really enjoyed that for some reason with the versatile frameworks. Oh my god, we're at 90 already? That was super quick. All I did was drive over to the space elevator and back. I mean, I guess it's kind of far, but I had no idea. I don't know why. I know the math. It just doesn't feel right. But okay, yeah, I'll take it. That's awesome. Sweet. All right, cool. So with 94, we'll just take that right now. In fact, yeah, I don't. I'm actually waiting on modular engines, not waiting on adaptive control units, which is interesting. But we'll just bring that up to a clean 100. That's we just need 2 more. All right, we've got what we need. It's as easy as that. Oh, this one just went off actually. What are you missing? Circuit boards. Interesting. Well, give me back the power shards. That was maybe kind of perfect. Because I did say that circuit boards, if I had 10 machines, would probably stop and start. Because we just don't make enough yet. But we can. Just need that better belt speed again. Alright, so I'm just waiting here for the modular engines to flow in. The counter is actually just stopped at 343, so we need 157. We've currently got just closing in on 150, so we're almost done. Alright, this is the last one we needed. That's 157. Let's go. Alright, so there we have it. Our adaptive control units are rolling in, our modular engines rolling in. Did we need 2 different belts for this? Absolutely not. I just thought it would be kind of nice. They have their own little compartment or whatever. The versatile frameworks, if I recall correctly, did go into the center, so trying to keep consistency. Have it all make sense. And I just have my puny little space elevator. We don't have all that cool stuff that we've been teased about. But, you know, I've had to sit down here and ask myself some very serious questions. Coming up to 340 hours on this particular playthrough, and that's not counting the billions of restarts and testing and all the stuff that's gone into this series. And we're staggeringly like 10 months since I started, and I've only just done this space elevator phase, so the whole idea was to build factories that would last, and I've definitely done that. You know, the copper Caterium factory is finally starting to pay off. You know, all this copper and quickwire that I haven't had to set up or orchestrate, it's just there for me. So that has been really nice. We're making good volume of these different numbers here and everything. Iron is still in abundance, I would say. Quartz is in abundance. Silica. You know, we've got lots of things ready just to feed into factories of the future. It's just about moving it around with trains and trucks and the like. Of course, then there's things like nuclear power and more power stations that are going to be needed as we go further. Aluminum is obviously something that's going to have to be worked on too. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm having my doubts just because 1.0 is fast approaching, you know, a couple of weeks to go. And I've been kind of looking at this style of doing videos this way, and it's obviously taken me very, very long. Now, I'm a YouTuber that's covered multiple games. I like to cover different games. At the same time, I look at other channels and I think, well, I should probably just stay in my lane and focus on one thing and try to be really good at that one thing. And build an audience for that, and then maybe they, you know, you can carry a portion of them onto something else when this game inevitably ends, or whatever. But I also just like playing variety of games, so every now and then maybe throwing in something else would be good. Anyway, I'm just kind of talking out loud about what I've been thinking for the future. I've been kind of thinking that I'll stream Satisfactory 1.0. That story teaser has got me kind of excited about going through progression and everything again. I'd obviously have all my blueprints in place and be trying to make progress, but there's no point really, I feel like, starting a brand new series and going through everything I just went through again. But at the same time, it feels not right, I suppose, to just continue this in the same way as if and try to port it over. I don't know. Perhaps, just as we wait for our last little adaptive control units to make their way in, the solution might lie in the middle. Maybe streaming the new stuff and continuing this series as one-off videos as we build bigger and bigger, making that aluminum and getting these factories up and running. I'll think about it, but that's a huge time commitment to do both. But I'll think about it. I'm struggling to know what the right thing is to do. To do right by people who've watched the series so far, but also to, you know, try to play the YouTube game a little bit. I never really do. Much to my, I don't know, my own chagrin. Anyways, this is a momentous and joyous occasion, so let's enjoy it. Delivery will unlock Tier 7 and Tier 8. Give me the juice. was just about to drive to the hub, but then I just noticed it says complete phase 4, and just the immediate gut punch of seeing the things that you then need. I've never made any one of these 4 goods ever in my time playing this game. Ever. No idea even what you need to make them. I know that nuclear pasta, I think it needs a lot of copper, which is kind of what the copper Caterium plant was for. Alright, so here we are at the hub. I just wanted to quickly check what lies in store for us if I do continue. So we have bauxite refinement. Obviously making an aluminum factory will be a fairly big ordeal, but getting these milestones unlocked is super easy. I mean, we have almost all of this stuff already. No real problem here. Obviously just the aluminum, right, are 2 of these components that we don't have. Radio control units will be a factory that we'll need to make. We have a lot of quartz crystal. I think we have everything we need just to get a crystal oscillator factory up and running, which I think is needed for that. But then once you start getting to tier 8, that's when it gets crazy. And this is the stuff that's being reworked to be not so crazy. This is crazy just so that it could pad out the early access time. In some ways, I'm kind of like, well, I'd like to do it before it goes away forever, to say I did it. And I've never done it. Anything in tier 8, never done it. Everything in tier 7 I have done. So not too crazy there. So what I'm looking at here is like the biggest factory I'd have to build then would be aluminum. Which honestly I could just kind of build the one I built in the old series. That was a pretty good size. And something like that would be good to just do again, but in a cleaner, updated fashion. Same location though. That was built originally out here. Which I wouldn't mind doing that again. Bauxite can come up from the hills and travel down there. But I don't think I'm going to have... I had planned to move stuff around on trains, and I just don't see that happening now. That's such a long process. Ugh. Why can't they just delay 1.0 for like 6 months, and then I'd have no option but to continue? That makes everything easy. Oh yeah, gas. Fused frames. That can be tricky. That's the furthest I've ever gotten. I made heat sinks and fused frames and radio control units. I never went any further than that. That was the last series. I was building a supercomputer factory, and that's where it ended. Alright, anyway, that's going to have to be it from me. Let me know what you think in the comments. And, well, I'll see you in the next one.